Hey there everyone, welcome to Broken Lord Order. So now that the Warden and the Paunch is out and in the wild, I hope you've been having fun with it, but maybe by now you've kind of already had your fill of it. You know, you've already done a campaign as Grom the Paunch, and you've already done your Altherion the Grim run and stuff like that. Maybe you're looking for something new. Well, that's exactly what we're going to take a look at today with the Greybeard Prospectors faction overhaul.
Wow.
So the Greybeard Prospectors, created by Elon, are a brand new dwarven faction. They are right side by side with Henry and Bretonia and all of them in the Vortex campaign. And despite the fact that they are theoretically just a dwarven campaign, I found them to be an extraordinarily unique one. I really, really want to tip my hat to Elon right out of the gates. They don't play basically anything at all like what a standard dwarf campaign plays like. You are struggling for territory, you have extremely bad public order, and like anything you do, every decision you make immediately rears its head with consequences. And that's not even necessarily just from the map perspective either. Literally everything in this mod I can think of was designed with choice in mind. Your tech tree has just a metric ton of mutually exclusive options in there. There's an option to go standard dwarfs versus new technology dwarfs, both of which will lock the other ones. Then say you do a new technology one, each of those tech trees will also have locking decisions to make too. So for example, if you get the Empire one, you can either get a bonus to public relations with a bunch of different factions, or a bonus to the enemies of the Empire's factions by using their insight into it. You can use the Empire's production capabilities to make your own units cheaper and more have more ammo to use, or you can go the opposite way and make them more expensive to produce and harder to use, but their ammo becomes more effective in combat. Decisions like this are literally all over the mod, and I think it was a really, really cool touch by Elon to put this much choice into everything. You could conceivably play through this mod 3 or 4 times and have a completely unique experience each of those times. But if all this did was take standard dwarf stuff and give you more choices to make about it, wouldn't be particularly interesting, and thankfully Elon really stepped up here as well. So the lore of the Greybeard Prospectors was just a CA creation, so Elon took it and ran with it. So they've got a bunch of new units, new regiments of renown, a custom lord option and stuff like that. But ultimately, I'd say they're really focused on being a gunpowder faction. You can sort of picture them as being the dwarven equivalent to a vampire coast. They are heavier than your standard dwarves, slower than your standard dwarves, but significantly harder hitting at range than your standard dwarves. I won't spoil every single unit, but for example, they have a heavy Thunderer option versus the standard dwarf Thunderer that has longer range, way more missile damage, heavier armor, and everything else like that, but of course you pay for it by having a more expensive, slower unit to use in exchange. I also really wanted to call out the map specifically too, because as I said at the beginning, it actually makes for an extremely difficult expansion early on, which I thought was really interesting. Not only do you have to figure out who you're going to start attacking, myself, I figured I'm supposed to be a good guy, so I went after Archon the Black. It wasn't an easy expansion. I had the Skaven to my east, I had Archon the Black to my south, I was suffering from corruption from both factions. I couldn't expand west or north because of all the Bretonians that were basically backing me up in these wars. It was really difficult, and then even after, every time I took over one of these territories, the amount of public malice I had meant I was constantly trying to deal with rebellions and whatnot too, so I didn't just immediately lose the territories I took over. I will say this is an extremely, extremely difficult faction in comparison to most of the dwarves, but if you put in the legwork, it actually makes for a far more interesting experience, I'd argue. One thing that is unfortunate and a little depressing, and this is by far has nothing to do with Elon, but this is actually CA's doing, it suffers from the inability to have an actual objective. So, you know, if you play with the dwarves in Immortal Empires campaign, of course you can just expand out, kill the targets you're supposed to kill, and then win that way. And of course the dwarves don't exist in the Vortex campaign yet. Unfortunately, Greybeard's Prospectors have basically no end state. You just stop playing when you yourself are done with it, and that part kind of sucks, unfortunately, but again, Want to be extremely clear, that's not Elon's fault. That's just the way that the current mod tools are set up, and it needs to be changed by CA at some point. But, of course, we always take a look at balance and compatibility. So let's start with the former. Balance, I would say, is maybe a little bit easy in terms of battles. Your units typically are just better versions of all the Dwarven units already. So in battles, as long as you're not a complete dork with all your stuff, you can usually come out with pretty minimal strategizing. I wouldn't say it's gratuitously overpowered or anything like that, but if you were just playing it head-to-head for battles, yeah, you're probably going to find that they're a little bit easier than normal. Where it becomes leashed back in, like I said, is that it is extremely difficult on the campaign side of things, which means that, well, yes, you could just create a 20-unit Doom stack and try to steamroll everyone. It's not actually as easy as it sounds to pull that off, because if you invest too much into a single Doom stack, you can't afford to run a second Lord, and not being able to run a second Lord means you can't keep up with all the rebellions, which in turn tends to spiral. So it is leashed back in early game. I will say once you get past that, I would sort of say about 50 turn hump or so, and you've got enough economy to justify having multiple Doom stacks, then yeah, you end up tending to steamroll everyone else. Compatibility it's not great. Like a lot of mods, it's suffering from script overload. Again, this is not something I want to pin on to Elon. This is more from CA side of thing. They really need to get the game to work better with this stuff. For example, at the very start of my game, I had no custom legendary lord as I was supposed to, and no matter how many mods I seemed to disable, I went all the way down to 10 at one point. I always ended up having no legendary lord. I will say it's not necessarily unique to this mod, but I have had my doubts about whether or not I should be giving a free pass to this one, because plenty of other mods do just fine with their legendary lord, even with a whole crapload of other mods running simultaneously. It does seem to be somewhat unique to certain mods that seem to suffer from script breaks. That being said, the rest of my Dwarven stuff, I can't compare whether or not it will suffer from compatibility issues, because most of my Dwarven mods are currently not updated for the new patch. So it might play nice with them, it might not. Unfortunately, I can't really tell you that one way or the other. But like I said, I will say the script breaking is definitely something you're going to have to contend with. So then, conclusion time. Should you get Greybeard's Prospectors? Absolutely. They're an extremely unique experience. And frankly, even the fact that I had lost my Legendary Lord's uniqueness, I didn't give a damn. It was so much fun to play it just as is. I was having an absolute riot even without him. It's an extremely difficult campaign, and if you don't have any experience with the dwarves, you might find it almost impossible to overcome. But again, it's so much fun and a completely unique experience in the gameplay. I just really wanted to say good job to Elon. This was a fun mod to play. Anyways, that's going to wrap it up for this one, though. As always, I want to thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all next time.